She was called the Widowmaker across many stars. Every husband she took was gone within days. Some said it was curse, others said it was choice. None of them knew the truth. Her people forced her into every marriage. They called it duty. They said she must bind blood with leaders of other worlds, and each time she was given no choice but to obey. She would smile before the crowd. She would wear her crown. And then the blade would rise in the night. Her new husband would not live to see the next dawn. The people feared her. The council praised her. The name of Widowmaker spread like fire across galaxies. Her heart grew empty with every death. But she never showed weakness. She was a mask of stone. When the next marriage was announced, the people laughed. They said it was a joke. They said the council had lost their mind. The next husband would not be from a warrior race. He would not be from a mighty empire. He would not be from a bloodline of power. He would be human. Humans were weak in the eyes of the galaxy. They had no great fleets. They had no old weapons of legend. They were simple. They were mortal. They were nothing. The Widowmaker heard this news in silence. She thought it strange. Why would the council give her such a man? What game were they playing? She told herself it did not matter. He would die like the rest. That was what always happened. When the day came, the human entered her hall. He did not wear armor. He did not bow low. He only looked at her with calm eyes. There was no fear in him. There was no trembling. There was no hate, only quiet strength. She studied him. He was not tall like the others. He was not sharp like the others. He was plain, but he carried himself as if nothing in the world could shake him. Council watched from above. They wanted to see her hand move fast as always. They wanted to see the human fall by her will. But something inside her did not stir. The blade in her hand felt heavy. For the first time she did not lift it quick. The human spoke simple words. I am not here to rule you. I am not here to fear you. I am only here because fate placed me here. If you wish to end me, then end me now. But know this, I will not kneel. I will not hate. I will not curse your name. The words cut deeper than any blade. Her heart shook in her chest. She had faced many warriors. They all begged. They all cursed. They all tried to strike first. But this man stood still. He did not fight. He did not break. The hall was silent. The people leaned forward. They waited for blood. They wanted the show, but she did not move. Her hand froze. Her breath slowed. The human turned his back to her. He walked to the window. He looked at the stars outside. He said softly, I do not believe you are what they say. I do not believe you are only death. There's something else in you, something they fear more than your blade. She felt her mask crack. A small piece of stone fell away. No one had ever spoken like this to her. No one had ever looked at her as if she was more than a weapon. The council grew restless. They whispered to each other, why has she not struck? Why has the human not died? What has changed? She clenched her blade tight. She told herself she must finish it. She told herself this was duty, but her hand shook. The blade would not rise in her mind. She saw the faces of the ones before, each husband, each night, each scream. She had buried them all in silence. Now this human had brought them back. With only a few words he had opened her scars. The human turned to face her again, his eyes steady. He said, I am still here. Do what you must. But I will not be afraid. For the first time in her life, she did not want to kill. For the first time she wanted to know why her heart was beating fast, why her chest burned with heat she had never known. The council rose to their feet. They shouted from above, finish him. Do it now. Do not shame us. She looked at them. Then she looked at the human. Her hand trembled. Her voice shook as she whispered to herself, this one will not fall like the rest. This one may change everything. The human did not fall on the first night. He did not beg for mercy. He did not cry or scream. He simply stood calm and strong, as if death itself was nothing to him. The Widowmaker watched him with cold eyes, but her heart was not cold anymore. She felt strange heat inside her chest. She told herself it was anger, but deep down she knew it was not anger at all. The council grew more restless. They sent guards to watch her chambers. They whispered to each other, "The human must die soon. If she hesitates, we will act. She must not lose her name. She must not lose her fear." Next day, the human spoke again. His words were simple. He said, "I know you carry pain. I see it in your eyes, I know. You are more than what they say. You are not only a blade, you are not only a mass." She laughed in his face. She said, "You are foolish. You think you know me. You think you see me. You are nothing but a weak man from a weak world." But her laughter was hollow. It was not true laughter. Her voice cracked at the edge. She turned away so he would not see her eyes. But he had already seen them. And he knew that night she tested him. She left traps in the hall, sharp wires, hidden blades, poison smoke in the air. She wanted to see if he would break. She wanted to see if he was only lucky before. But he did not break. He moved with quick thought. He did not fight with strength. He fought with his mind. He saw the wires before they cut him. He ducked before the blades struck. He covered his mouth with cloth before the poison reached his lungs. She watched from the shadows, her eyes wide. She thought, how can a man with no power survive this? How can he live when even warriors have failed? There was something different in him, something she could not name. At dawn, he looked at her again. He said, "If you want me dead, I will not run. But ask yourself why you want me dead. Ask yourself if it is your will or their will. Do you kill for yourself, or do you kill for them?" Her chest tightened. The council had told her long ago that this was her destiny, that she was born for this duty, that her hands were made only for blood. But now she felt doubt rising like fire in her mind, and the human fed that fire with every word the council called her before them. They said, "You are too slow. This man is still alive. Your name is at risk. Your place is at risk. You must end him at once." She bowed before them, her face hard, her voice steady. She said, "He will die. Do not doubt me." But inside she felt her voice tremble. When she returned to her chambers, the human was waiting. He asked what they told her. She did not answer. He stepped closer and said, "They fear you, not because of your blade, but because of your heart. Because if you choose for yourself, you will be free. And if you are free, their power is gone." She wanted to strike him. She wanted to silence him. But she could not. Her hand refused, her blade shook. He reached out his hand not to strike, not to defend, but to offer. He said, "I will not hurt you. I will not use you. I only want you to see the truth, that you are more than what they made you." She stared at his hand, her breath heavy. No one had ever offered her hand like that. Every husband before had looked with fear or hunger, not with trust, not with peace. She pulled away, her eyes wet with fire she did not understand. She shouted, "You know nothing of me. You cannot change me. No one can change me." He said softly, "Then why are you crying?" Her heart stopped at his words. She touched her face. She felt water on her skin. She had not cried in years. She had sworn never to cry. But now tears fell without her will. Council ordered guards to test the human. They wanted to prove he was weak. They sent soldiers into the night. They told them to end him in secret, to make it look like her work. The guards attacked with blades and fire, but the human did not fall. He did not fight with strength. He used the room itself. He turned tables to shields. He broke lamps to blind them with smoke. He used their steps against them, and when it was over, the guards were gone, and he still lived. She came upon the scene with wide eyes. She saw the smoke, she saw the broken blades, she saw the human standing alone and still breathing. Her breath caught in her chest. No one had ever survived an attack like this. No one but him looked at her with calm fire in his eyes. He said, "They will not stop. They want me gone. They want you chained, but you are stronger than them. You just do not know it." Yet she felt her knees weaken. Her mask was breaking piece by piece. The world she had known all her life was falling apart, and it was because of one human who would not bend. The council screamed with rage when they learned the guards had failed. They shouted, "She is weak. She has lost her hand. The human must die before the people begin to doubt. We will drag him into the square. We will end him before all eyes. And if she will not do it, then we will." The order was given. Soldiers stormed the hall. They bound the human with chains. They dragged him through the stone corridors. She followed in silence, her hands shaking, her heart burning. People gathered in the square. The council raised their voices. They said, "Here's the human. Here's the weak one who dared to live. Here's the shame of the Widowmaker. Watch as he dies before you." She stood above the crowd, her blade in her hand, her name on every tongue, her fate heavy upon her shoulders. The human raised his head through the chains. His eyes found hers. He did not speak. He did not beg. He only looked at her as if her choice was the only truth in the universe. Her hand trembled, her blade shook, her breath broke. For the first time in her life, she did not know if she could obey. For the first time, she wanted to choose for herself. The council shouted again, "Finish him now," and she whispered to herself in silence, "What if I do not?" The square was filled with voices. The people shouted and waited. They wanted to see blood. They wanted to see the Widowmaker strike once more. They wanted the human to fall. Council stood tall above the crowd. They raised their hands and ordered silence. They said, "Today the human will die. Today the Widowmaker will prove her name again. Today there will be no doubt who rules these stars." The human was on his knees, chains heavy around his arms, but his eyes did not show fear. He looked calm, as if chains were nothing. He looked at her and no one else, as if only she existed in that place. Her blade was in her hand. It shone in the light. It felt heavy. It felt wrong. Her body shook. Her mask was breaking. The council watched her closely. They whispered to each other, "She is too slow. Her heart is weak. She must not fail us." The crowd shouted her name. They demanded the kill. They demanded the blood. Their voices grew louder like a storm. Human spoke at last. He said, "If you end me now, it will not free you. It will only bind you deeper. Do you not see? They are using you. They made you believe this was your fate, but it was never yours. It was theirs." Chest tightened at his words. Memories rose like shadows in her mind. She saw her first marriage. She was young, her heart still soft. She had smiled at her husband. Once she had thought maybe life would be kind. But the council had ordered otherwise. That night they forced her hand. That night she killed. And from that night she was no longer herself. The blade shook in her grip. She heard the voices of the dead, all the husbands, all the screams. They lived in her mind still, and now the human brought them back. The council grew angry. They shouted louder, "Strike him! Strike now! Do not shame your people." Her eyes burned with tears. She could not hide them anymore. The people saw her cry for the first time. Gasps spread through the crowd. The Widowmaker was crying. The mask was breaking. The human's voice rose again. He said, "You are not their weapon. You are not their curse. You are not their mask. You are you, and you can choose." Her knees weakened. Her hand lowered. The blade touched the stone floor. The crowd gasped again. The council shouted with fury. They ordered the guards to act. Soldiers rushed forward. They seized the human. They raised their spears. They said, "If she will not finish it, then we will." The human looked at her one last time, his eyes calm, his lips silent, but his gaze said everything. Choose. In that moment, her heart broke apart. She screamed louder than the crowd. She struck the guards down with her blade. Fast as lightning, sharp as fire, blood spilled across the stone. The people froze in silence. The council roared in anger. They shouted, "She has betrayed us. She has broken the chain. She is no longer one of us. Seize her, end her." The people did not move. They were frozen by fear. They had never seen her fight the council before. They had never seen her protect instead of kill. For the first time they did not know who to follow. She cut the chains from the human. He stood free. He looked at her with steady eyes. She breathed heavy. Her chest burned with fire. She whispered, "I do not know why I saved you." And he answered, "Because you are not what they made you." Soldiers formed a wall, blades raised, shields locked. They moved forward to crush them both. The human stepped close to her. He said, "Fight if you must, but listen to me." Strength is not only in blades, strength is in trust, strength is in heart. Let me guide you. Do not fight alone, her mind screamed to kill. Her body wanted to strike, but her heart pulled her back. She nodded once. She let him stand beside her. Together they faced the soldiers. The soldiers attacked, but the human used the ground. He kicked dust into their eyes. He broke their lines with clever steps. He shouted to her when to strike, and she moved like a storm guided by his voice. One by one the soldiers fell, not by her blade alone, but by their bond together. The crowd began to murmur. They began to see her in a new light, not a weapon, not a mask, but something more. The council saw the change. They grew afraid. They shouted lies to the people. They said, do not believe her. She is cursed. She will destroy you. She will destroy us all. But the people looked at the human. They looked at the Widowmaker standing at his side. They saw her tears. They saw her fight for someone not against. And doubt began to spread in their hearts. The council called for their last defense. A beast of war hidden deep below, a machine older than memory, a weapon built to crush empires. They said, if she will not obey, then we will unleash this power. It will end them both. It will remind all who rules here. Ground shook. The air trembled. The beast rose from the pit below the square. It was tall as towers. Its eyes glowed red. Its claws burned with fire. The people screamed and ran. The council laughed with rage. They said, no human can change fate. No blade can cut this beast. No hope can save them. Human looked at her again, his voice calm even as the ground broke apart. He said, they want us dead because we hold truth. We must stand, we must not bend. Together we can end this. Her heart raced, fear filled her chest, but also a fire she had never felt before she raised her blade. He raised his voice, and together they faced the beast. The council screamed from above. They shouted, it is useless, you will both die. You cannot win. But she whispered under her breath, for the first time I choose. And the battle began. The beast of war stood tall in the broken square. Its body of steel shone like fire. Its eyes burned red as suns. Its claws dripped with heat. The ground shook with every step it took. The council raised their arms and shouted that death had come. The people screamed and ran into the shadows of the city. They trampled each other in fear. The soldiers drew back, for even they could not face the beast. The council watched with smiles. They believed the end had come for the human and the Widowmaker. She raised her blade high, but the blade felt small before such power. Her breath grew heavy. Her chest burned with fear. For the first time she thought maybe this fight could not be won. The human stood beside her, calm as ever. He did not raise a weapon. He raised his voice. He said, do not strike without thought. Look with your eyes. See not only the claws but the weakness within. Every beast has a heart. Every machine has a flaw. She wanted to believe him, but the beast moved fast. It swung its claw and the ground split. Open stone cracked. Fire burst. The people screamed again. She leaped aside. Her blade cut across its leg, but sparks flew and no blood came. The metal was thick. The wound was nothing. The human shouted to her, do not fight with rage, fight with your mind. You are more than their blade. You are more than their weapon. Her heart pounded. His words echoed in her chest. She moved again. She struck again. But still the beast stood strong. Every strike felt useless. Every move felt too small. The council laughed louder. They shouted, see how weak she is. See how useless the human is. Together they are nothing. They will fall. The beast opened its mouth. Fire poured out. The air turned to flame. She raised her arm to shield herself. The heat burned her skin. Fire roared. The human grabbed her hand and pulled her into the shadows of a broken wall. He spoke fast. He said, listen to me. We cannot fight it with blade alone. We must break what gives it power. Look for the source. Look for the core. Her eyes scanned the beast. She saw its chest glow faint under the armor. She saw sparks where metal plates joined. She saw weakness. It was there, hidden but real. Human said, strike there when I give you the chance. Trust me now, she nodded, her heart still heavy, but her trust stronger than fear. The beast smashed the wall above them. Stone rained down. The human pulled her clear. He ran across the square with no weapon. He shouted and waved. He drew the beast toward him. He risked his life with every step. Her breath caught in her throat. Her chest burned with fear for him. She wanted to run to him. She wanted to protect him. But she held back. She waited for the chance he promised. The beast chased him. Its claws tore through stone. Its fire burned the air. But he did not stop. He moved fast. He used every corner of the broken square. He leaped and rolled. He never lost his calmet. Last the beast turned its chest toward her. The glow of its core exposed for one breath of time. The human shouted now and she moved her blade flashed like lightning. Her feet struck the ground like thunder. She leaped high. She drove the blade deep into the glowing chest. The beast roared with sound that shook the sky. The glow turned wild. The fire burst out from its body. She fell back hard on the stone. The air burned her skin. Her ears rang with the roar. The beast staggered. The glow flickered, but it still stood. Council screamed with anger. They shouted, "Kill them both. Do not fail." The human rushed to her side. He helped her rise. He said, "One more strike. Together this time." She gripped her blade again. He picked up broken metal from the ground. They faced the beast side by side. It swung at them both, but they moved as one. He distracted its eyes. She struck its chest. Again the core cracked. The fire burst out. The beast shook. The glow died. It fell like a mountain. The ground split as it crashed. The square filled with smoke and dust. The people gasped in silence. The council stared in shock. They shouted, "This cannot be. This is not fate. This is not possible." But it was true. The beast was dead. And the Widowmaker had stood not as a killer of husbands, but as a warrior who chose her own fight. And the human had stood not as prey, but as guide. The people began to murmur. Their fear was broken. Their doubt grew stronger. They saw the council was not endless power. They saw one human and one woman had broken the weapon of ages. The council called for more soldiers. They shouted, "Seize them, chain them, do not let the people believe in them." But the soldiers hesitated. They had seen the beast fall. They had seen the strength of choice. Their hands shook. Their hearts questioned. Human looked at the people. He raised his voice. He said, "You are not slaves. You are not chained. They have lied to you. They have used her as their mask. They have ruled you with fear. But fear is broken. Now you can choose." The people listened, their eyes wide, their voices rising like a storm. For the first time they shouted not for the council. They shouted for freedom. They shouted for her. They shouted for him. The council grew pale with rage. They saw the tide turn. They knew their grip was slipping. They whispered of one last move, a secret weapon, hidden deeper, a power that could wipe the city clean. But before they could command it, the Widowmaker raised her blade at them. Her eyes burned with fire. She said, "No more. Your rule ends here. You will not break me again." The crowd roared. The soldiers roared. The city roared. Council shouted back, "Then you will die with the human. This is the end of you both." The human looked at her, his voice calm even as the storm rose. He said, "Maybe this is the end, but if it is, then it is our choice, not theirs." She felt her heart steady. She felt her mask fully break. For the first time she was not afraid of death. For the first time she felt alive, and she whispered to him, "Then let us end this together." The square still burned with smoke from the fallen beast. The people shouted for freedom. The council shouted for control. The soldiers stood frozen between fear and choice. And at the center of it all stood the Widowmaker and the human side by side. The council raised their arms. They screamed to the sky. They called for their last weapon, a storm of fire hidden deep in the earth. A weapon that could end the city in one strike. They swore if they could not rule, then they would destroy all. The ground shook again. A deep rumble rose from the stone. The people cried out in fear. They thought the end had come. The sky darkened as energy filled the air. The walls cracked, the towers trembled. The human gripped her hand. He spoke calm even as the world shook. He said, "Do not fear, fear is their chain. If we break fear, we break. Them we must end this now." Her heart raced. Her blade felt heavy, but her will was strong. She looked at the council with fire in her eyes. She shouted no more. "You have stolen my life. You have turned me into your mask. But today I am free, and I will not let you burn these people." The crowd fell silent at her words. They had never heard her speak against the council. They had never seen her fight for them instead of against them. Their eyes filled with hope. Their voices grew louder. They shouted for her. They shouted for the human. The council screamed with rage. They poured more power into the weapon below. The ground split. Flames rose from the cracks. The square glowed with fire. The human pulled her close. He whispered, "We cannot fight fire with blade. We must fight it with heart. Trust me, I have seen machines like this. They are built with one core. Break the core, and the storm will die." She nodded. She had trusted him before, and lived she would trust him now. Together they ran toward the heart of the storm. The air burned. The ground broke under their feet. The people scattered in terror. The soldiers could not follow. Only the two of them moved forward. The human led the way. He searched with sharp eyes. He saw the cracks in the stone. He saw the light of the core deep within. He shouted, "There, strike there." She raised her blade, but the heat was too strong. Her body shook. Her skin burned. She could not reach. The human stepped before her. He shielded her with his body. He shouted, "Now. Strike now." She hesitated. Fear gripped her. She saw him burning in the fire. She saw him breaking. Her heart screamed, but his eyes met hers, and in his eyes she saw calm. She saw trust. She saw love. She raised her blade with all her strength. She struck deep into the glowing crack. The core shattered with a roar like the end of worlds. The fire burst out. The ground shook one last time. Then silence. The storm died. The fire faded. The cracks closed. The weapon was gone. The square lay in ruins. Smoke rose from broken stone. The people crawled out from shadows, their eyes wide with shock and awe. The council fell to their knees. Their power broken, their weapon gone, their voices empty. They tried to command, but no one listened. Their rule was over. The people shouted in victory. They shouted for freedom. They shouted for the Widowmaker. They shouted for the human. She stood with her blade low, her chest heavy, her eyes wet with tears. She turned to the human. He was on his knees, his body burned, his breath weak. Her heart broke. She rushed to him. She held him in her arms. She whispered, "Do not leave me. You cannot leave me now. Not after all of this." He smiled weakly, his voice soft. He said, "I told you fear is their chain. You are free now. You broke it. You are more than their weapon. You are yourself." Remember that. Tears fell from her eyes onto his face. She shook her head. She said, "I was only strong because of you. You changed me. You saved me." His hand touched hers. He whispered, "No, you saved yourself. I only showed you the path. The choice was always yours." The people gathered around. They saw her tears. They saw her holding him. They saw the mask was gone forever. They saw not the Widowmaker, but a woman reborn. The soldiers dropped their weapons. The council was seized by the crowd. Chains bound their arms. Their voices silenced. The empire of fear was ended that day. She held the human close. She whispered, "Live, please live." But his eyes closed. His breath slowed. For a moment she thought he was gone. Then he opened his eyes again. Weak but alive, he whispered, "I will stay. I will walk with you. Not as ruler, not as slave, but as man beside woman, free together." Her tears turned to laughter, her heart light for the first time. She raised her face to the crowd. She shouted, "I am no longer the Widowmaker. I am no longer their blade. I am free, and so are youth." Crowd roared with joy. Their voices rose like thunder. The city shook not with fear, but with hope. From that day she was no longer feared. From that day she was no longer cursed. She was remembered as the one who broke the chains. And the human was remembered as the one who showed the way. Together they walked out of the ruins. Together they stepped into the light of freedom, and the galaxy learned that a single human with only heart and trust could change everything. The end.